Hello, my name's Ben Wagner with Leave the Key Home Buyers, and I wanted to talk about a question we've been getting a lot lately, which is about forbearance. Here in New York, where we were hit really hard by coronavirus, lots of jobs closed temporarily or unfortunately permanently, and more than ever, people have been applying for forbearance. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what that means, and if you are in that situation, what options you have, whether you can sell your home, and also what it looks like on the back end if you're able to keep your home and afford to keep it, what the different options are to pay back the missed or deferred payments that you have. So I want to start off with just basically defining what forbearance is. So what it means is basically your lender or mortgage servicer has given you a temporary reprieve, either to completely stop making mortgage payments temporarily or to reduce the amount that you pay in your mortgage payments on a monthly basis. One thing I want to be very clear about is that forbearance is not the same as forgiveness. So if you do get forbearance, you still ultimately owe that money back to the lender. And we'll talk a little bit about what the different options are when it comes to that. But do note that the payments that you miss or the reduction in payments that you have are not going to be completely forgiven by the lender. You'll work with your lender and talk about the options you have for repaying the missed or reduced payments at the end of the forbearance period. But typically there's a few different options that you have to choose from or that they'll provide you. One of the options is coming up with a repayment plan. What that really means is you'll be adding an additional amount to your monthly payments for some set period of time in order to make up for your missed payments. And this is good if you find yourself in a situation where you're financially well off or even better than you were before the forbearance, because your actual monthly payments are going to be higher than they were before during this repayment period. One of the other common options you'll see is a deferral or a partial claim. What this means is that let's say you got 12 months of forbearance, they'll typically tack on an additional 12 months at the end of the loan term. The other option, the partial claim, would be to have an additional subordinate loan that is second to your primary mortgage, which would incur no additional monthly payments, but when you sell or refinance the property, that loan would have to be fully satisfied. This option is really suited towards someone who finds themselves in a pretty comparable position after forbearance as they were before. They can't afford the additional monthly payments, but they still can afford to make the monthly payments they used to make. The third option we see a lot is a loan modification. What that means is you work in coordination with your lender or servicer and come up with a plan for you to be able to reduce your monthly payments. That typically involves either restructuring the loan with a lower interest rate or extending the term of the loan to reduce those payments on a monthly basis. This is really good for someone who hasn't fully recovered for whatever the reason that caused the forbearance in the first place, because now they can no longer afford to go back to making the payments they were making before. The last option we hear about is a reinstatement, which really just means a lump sum payment to make up for any missed mortgage payments. However, do note that if you receive forbearance as part of COVID relief and the CARES Act, this is never going to be a required option for you. So this would be strictly optional if you choose to do that. I posted some government resources below that provide information on how to request and apply for forbearance. Please take a look at those if you're in that situation. When it comes to the question of whether someone can sell their house, whether they're currently in forbearance or have gone through forbearance and haven't yet fully repaid the missed payments, the answer is yes. So there's no restrictions on being able to sell your house while either in or after the forbearance period. Obviously, when you do sell the house, whatever payments you've missed will be tacked on to the balance of the mortgage. So the mortgage will be fully satisfied before you'll receive proceeds from the sale. One area where this is not as straightforward is if you end up owing the bank more than the home is worth. So here there's some other options in this situation. We'll have some additional articles and information and videos about that. But just to touch on those, one option could be a short sale. There could be a deed in lieu of foreclosure or other options like that, which we'll get into in other videos. So one of the follow-on questions, now that you know that you can sell your house while in forbearance, the question is, when might it be a good time to do that? And this is different for every person out there. But one thing to really think about is whether you can afford to continue living in the home that you're living in. And you typically want to take a very proactive approach here, because if you find yourself in forbearance and then you're not going to be able to make the monthly payments, after either a restructuring or something like that, you're going to end up just falling behind on your mortgage. You're going to go into pre-foreclosure, ultimately foreclosure, and you could end up losing the house and all the equity you have in the home. So that's obviously the last thing that you want to do. So if you're in a situation where it's starting to become a struggle, you may want to consider selling the property. So you're already applied for forbearance. Again, it's not forgiveness. So you're going to have to make those payments at some point, whether it's at the end of the term, whether it's slowly over the next 12, 18, 24 months after the forbearance period. You're ultimately going to have to make those payments. So you really need to think about your situation and whether you can afford to live and continue living in this house. You may want to think whether downsizing might be a good option for you in order to reduce your costs. And so lastly, I just wanted to touch on, if you haven't yet applied for forbearance, one thing I want to mention here in 2021, interest rates are at all-time lows. So even if you are having trouble making ends meet and making your current mortgage payments, one thing you may want to consider is looking into refinancing your mortgage. It's highly possible, depending on when you got your mortgage in the first place, that you may be able to refinance at lower rates today and lower your payment, hopefully to a level that you'll be able to sustain. Anyway, I hope you found this information helpful. If you want more information, you could visit us at leavethekey.com. Thank you.